Morning, or good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Before I call the meeting to order, I just would like to share a little bit of news regarding the land use commissions. You know that the previous director of planning and community development stepped down, and the town has been on a search for a replacement. And from what I understand, there were 4 candidates that were interviewed, and one clearly stood out above the other 3. And that candidate was Mr. Michael Glidden. You might be a little premature. I think, is the Board of Selectmen voting tonight?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Well, good luck, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay?
Don't mess it up.
Personally, I'm very happy for you, and the town.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it was a great decision.
Agreed.
All off the record.
As somebody who saw the interviewing process, Mr. Glidden nailed it. Glidden clearly nailed it. He was prepared, did a great job.
Excellent. We look forward to working with you, Mike.
Yes.
Okay, now I'll officially call the September 11th, 2018 Planning Commission regular meeting to order. Time is 7:02. If you would all rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, especially I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Now we turn to the roll call, and I guess before that, I'd just like to thank SCTV for recording these proceedings. It's very helpful. Okay. Holly Baum, absent. David Blooming.
Here.
Aaron Levitt-Smith.
Here.
Craig McCormack.
Here.
Alan Needham.
Here.
William Rice. Here. Elizabeth Burt. Absent. Richard Cortez.
Here.
Gary Longarini. Absent. Okay. Mr. Cortez, I'd like you to be promoted to a full member tonight.
Certainly.
We'll seat you. Thank you. That gives us a full commission. Okay, next on the agenda, approval of the minutes. Mr. Needham, can you take us through those, please?
Sure. Regarding the minutes for Tuesday, July 24, 2018, on page 1, has anybody noted any additions or corrections? Looks like no.
Nope.
Let's move on to, thank you. Let's move on to page 2. Let's move on then to page 3.
No comments, maybe?
Okay, looking for a motion then?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, motion passes. Minutes are accepted as submitted. Okay, turn back to the agenda. We'll take up our old business. We have no public hearings outstanding, no applications outstanding. However, we do have a referral that we deferred on the 24th, July, till this meeting, and that is a CGS 8-3A referral to the Zoning Commission for Zoning Commission application number 18-37 of Ed Creirolo, agent, KWT Realty LLC, owner, for a zone change from I-1 to B3 on the property located at 225 Hot Meadow Street, Assessors Map F16, Blocks 116, Lot 001-2. It's currently zoned I-1. And Just to keep in mind, Commissioners, that there's a public hearing scheduled for 9/17. That's the zoning commission's public hearing for this application. Now, if you remember, this is the parcel at the corner of Hot Meadow and Latimer Lane. Oh, we have a map. Okay, so Mike, when the commission,
Not right at the corner, according to that.
So, this is the
Oh, that's the
property
one
right
you're
here.
talking about.
Yep, right at the corner of Latimer and, I'll zoom in. Sorry.
so this is a GIS map?
Yeah, I'm just on the town's GIS system,
Okay.
just to, and I'll turn off the zoning layer. Just to give you an aerial. So that's the property right here, where my mouse is, which,
Mike, it's one lot, correct?
it's one lot. He has it condoed though inside, in
Oh, I
terms
see.
of, for zoning purposes, for ownership, it's considered one lot.
We asked him to be here.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Corro had surgery recently, so that's why he was not present. So what I prepared for you was I copied out of the zoning regulations of the staff report what is currently allowed in the I-1
Okay.
and what would be allowed as uses in the B3, which are basically all the uses in both the B1 and B2 zoning districts, with a caveat that any of these uses would be subject to the special conditions for approval located in Article 10A, Section A of the zoning regulations, which really, it's the, in subsection 3, it gives 7 different criteria that are similar to a special permit. Like safeguards for the surrounding neighborhood, et cetera, which would be applied to any development that would be a change of use from what's there, or let's say the property owner wanted to demolish the building. In discussions with the property owner, the main reason why he wants the zoning change, so right now he's got medical offices, and he has tried advertising some of the vacancies. What he runs into the issue is just up to the north, for example, by the tennis club property, you have office space that's vacant, 3,000 square feet. And then you start adding in other locations in town where he's competing with so many other office spaces that he wants to just have this ability to make it almost, I don't want to call it flex space, but if you were to have the ability to change the zoning designation to B3, it just opens the door for other uses, which in his mind, as long as they commingle with what's there, so he wouldn't do something like
A restaurant?
a restaurant if the parking couldn't support
Right.
both the restaurant use and the existing tenants. And that's something that, should it ever occur, it would require action of the zoning commission where all those criteria associated in Article 10 come into play. So not only would you have parking regs you have to adhere to for all the uses on the property, but importantly, any other impacts to the surrounding neighbors that would occur from that change of use, they would have some discretionary regulations they can review to mitigate any potential, especially when you have Simsbury Manor to the west of the trail here, just to make sure you didn't have any creep from any of these uses. The other thing, just remember the large green area that's on the right-hand side of the screen or east of this on Hot Meadow Street, that is the Hartford, that's the North Campus, the Silverman project. So actually where my mouse is right here, that's the limit of clearing and the trail for the new development. Granted, this
Wiggle
is,
your mouse again.
sorry,
The black dot. or
right
black
here, you see
arrow.
it? So they've already removed this tree line here, kind of brought it back. And you have buildings that are right here. A pretty dense residential but mixed-use development. There's 2 retail or commercial buildings that are up front, a little further to the north and east of where my mouse is right now. Because that development actually queues up with the tennis center.
And where's the ravine that we can't mess with?
I'll take off the zoning layer to show. Apologize. So the ravine is about right here, and there's Latimer
Yeah.
Brook.
And that can't be fooled, that, because it's what?
Well, more importantly, it's a mapped floodplain and it's floodway, so it's a do not touch area.
You could build a bridge across it.
They
That was
they
discussed once.
they are building so the Silverman, as part of their development, will be building a pedestrian connection from their development. They're gonna boardwalk across the floodway to basically. The plans show that they would meet the old campus to the south driveway at Old Canal Way and cross Old Canal Way with a pedestrian connection
Using the light.
using the light. They're however looking at alternative locations for a pedestrian crossing, but that's that is their challenge right now. So unless commissioners have any.
Can I express a concern?
Absolutely.
Just part of me is a little nervous about saying, we're changing the zone for a reason we don't know. I don't think we can assume he's always gonna own the property. We could end up with all kinds of stuff there that you may or may not like. I appreciate it has to go back to zoning if it changes uses, okay?
I agree.
Pretty generous. you know?
Well, especially when you
As
look
much
to
as I,
see what-
you know, he's a good citizen and a good property and all that, I get that. But without any sense of taverns are
Yeah.
allowed there,
funeral homes, old homes,
supermarkets,
taverns.
convenience stores, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it really opens up the possibilities.
It does.
Could be anything. And he won't own it forever, and after he leaves, somebody may have different moral fiber and want to put something else in there. I just think we ought to talk about that. I don't know how fair that
The new retail across the street, what is, where it's the mixed residential and commercial? What is that zone?
Well, that's the Hartford form-based code. So there's a zoning district specific to the Hartford campus and what was commonly, let's say, the cornfield, because that's what it was for decades. It's a form-based code similar to the form-based code which is in the center of town. So the division of uses is not the emphasis of the code. It is a code that functions really as administrative and promotes mixed uses and higher density developments. In this case, there's 11,000 square feet of commercial development. That's the two gateway buildings as you're driving into the Hartford, or to the, what's called the Silverman project, because that's the name of the developer. And then there's a 120,000 square foot assisted living facility, along with 282 residential units. So
So, the form base means that there's a pad, and the whole idea is it can change uses, right?
it's flexible.
It's flexible, so you might start life as a bank and turn into a restaurant at some time. So you don't know.
The form-based code places less an emphasis on the division of uses and more on how the development, the form, interfaces with the pedestrian at the street level. So you see it being, as Alan said, you know, that bank today is a restaurant tomorrow, that's a funeral parlor next week.
But the cosmetics should always fit the site.
Bingo, yeah, that's your design, your design theme doesn't change. So, oops.
So, Mike, could you please put the zoning overlay back on?
Yeah.
So to the south, it's R, what's that saying?
So actually, it's interesting. We have some conflicting data on that, and that's something that the zoning commission will be discussing. So to the south, this is, there's a Creek school here.
Yeah.
That zone that's purple, that's I1. This area, which is brown here, it's RD, at least on this map.
Yeah.
We've found records from the zoning commission that when Old Canal Way was developed, it was Fish Builders was associated with this. They're actually zone changed, the residential design district. This portion was approved, but this along Hot Meadow Street actually was denied. This is supposed to be I1.
Which was,
So-
when you said this, which,
Where this parcel here,
Right, dead center.
dead center,
Okay.
Center brown
Got
section.
it.
and this parcel right here is actually supposed to be zoned I1. And then obviously you go a little further down, where, if it catches up with me, that's Cumberland Farms, or the magenta here that
Yep.
had.
Yeah.
This was an old machine shop at one point. Zoned I1 still. So you basically had a swath going down to the south of Hot Meadow Street is I1. To the north, and this is where it gets interesting, so this is where the veterinary building, is located. At one time, this B3 line was actually through this property, and then it was rezoned. To the north of the vets, you have the two B3 zoning parcels. This is the tennis center property, which is actually zoned I2. It's kind of like the only pocket of I2 in this section of Hot Meadow Street. And obviously we talked about this would be the form-based code over here. So the entrance, that Silverman development, is about where my mouse is right here. So in the large building that's under construction right now is over here. That's the closest one you see from Hot Meadow Street as you're driving along Hot Meadow. And then you have a few that's over here right now that's under construction, and a larger one that's here. That's one of the large 32-unit building.
So on I1, there's where we're talking about, or the other one you indicated, there's still choices available. Office buildings, but you've expressed that there's lots of office buildings, so the competition's tough. I'm just reading from the regs. Research laboratories, it says warehouses, so you might play the fear factor and say, you really want a warehouse there? And then I would say, who's going to want a warehouse there? That kind of money. Processing, assembly of goods, that doesn't mean it's like US Steel. It could be high-tech stuff. Could be.
It's a small parcel though.
It is a
For
small.
that, yeah.
Well, look at an Avon, that business that has something to do with Apple.
Yeah.
the design.
Yeah, what's that company called? I can't remember. But anyway, it's a small parcel.
Yeah.
It's all thing stuff. So I don't have a strong opinion on this. I'm just a little concerned about saying you have lots of choices in the future, and the guy that buys it from you may have to move on. Knowing some idea.
So if someone came to him, it would,
This makes the property, by the way, I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, but much more saleable.
oh yes,
If the zone
yeah, you got a
changes.
multi-use.
Dave, were you gonna say something?
Well, if he were to have a potential tenant that didn't fit the I-1 categories, I don't know, I'm just trying to imagine what it might be, but could he then come and, now he's got the specific tenant and a potential lease, and go through that? Is that reasonable to do
You could
business
tear
that
down
way?
the building and build one and ask for zone change at that time.
His other option that would be available to them, he said that he had some user that didn't fit one of the uses in the I-1 zoning district, is amending the text of the I-1 zoning district to include that use. So it's, which in that case means the impact is town-wide. It's anywhere zoned I-1,
Right.
that use now can land, versus the kind of small area of, I want to move the zone. Like, which poison would you rather have, was his choice. So he took the changing of the zoning designation as one that would limit the overall impact townwide.
Those two choices, I just did at the site, but
Do you have any sense of how long this building has been there?
It was it's on,
The 70s.
70s,
Yeah.
I think is when it was built.
And it has been medical facilities that entire time?
For quite some time. Yeah, 1976.
Well, remember, whatever would be considered still has to be approved by the zoning commission.
right.
Right.
But we're looking at this in the context of the POCD, so how can we say it's consistent with the POCD when we don't know what it is?
Well, the testimony, I'll call it testimony, it's word of mouth, is that the owner is trying to position themselves to be in a position to be able to rent it or perhaps sell it.
Attract the different town.
Yeah, and in some regards, I would say that's economic development.
Sure.
Right? So if changing the zone increases the possibility of those types of actions, I would say it's consistent with the
You
POCD.
can argue that. You can also argue by changing the zone, that's much more saleable, and you don't know, then you're not held to any.
So I would say that if you look at what's included in B3, which is everything in B1 and B2, plus some, are those the things that are appropriate for that parcel in that part of town, given what's surrounding it?
Well, it would go
And
to
is
zoning,
that what you want the town to look like?
it would go to zoning, and they would decide that. But how can you say if it's consistent with the goals and objectives of the POCD when you don't know what it is?
We don't know what the specific use is gonna be yet, but the regs outline what you can put there. And some of these are clearly not in keeping with the type of development that we're looking for in that area.
To take the other side, some of the ones listed in I-1 aren't either,
Yeah.
And
you know?
But
Just
that's a
playing
much more
devil's
limited group of choices than opening it up to everything in the B section.
adjacent to this parcel is a B3 zone.
Yes.
So someone along the way thought it was a good idea to change it then. Maybe the circumstances have changed, I don't know.
Well, they
I
could.
think that was probably done well before we had a POCD in place.
I don't know.
I don't see anything inconsistent with the POCD. Can I say it's specifically consistent? I do. I personally see it that way. But of course, you
I don't know
know,
what it is, so.
yeah.
You're not wrong, Mr. Chairman. At least I don't think so. But I just have that reservation. I just don't like mere blank checks.
I agree, Ellen. I feel uneasy for the same reason.
Okay, so how would that be formulated into a motion?
Well, let's talk for a second and we
Okay.
can come up with it. So, is it unreasonable? I'm willing to change my mind, but is it unreasonable to say we'd rather you came back when you have a specific outcome in mind?
Well, maybe we
I don't
don't.
think so. Because the property could be sold, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, no.
I mean, you know, the owner could conceive of a possible use, and then at some point, you know, the building's sold and you know, that changes, right? So I
It's
mean,
easier to sell now. But what if the motion was that we can't determine its compatibility with the goals and objectives of the POCD because we're not certain what the zone change would lead to? Is that unreasonable? Must be better English.
So if you take, the only problem is under statute, if you take no action, because that would be considered no action,
Yep.
it's considered an approval. If you find that it's not consistent with the POCD, what it triggers is when zoning goes to vote, they need a supermajority.
Well, but there's no such thing in our zone because there's only 6 members.
It still triggers 4 out of 6 votes versus a simple, well,
It's 4 out of
still,
6
it's
either
the
way.
simple.
So what if the motion said no? Okay, that we don't accept the referral, we say no because at this time, it is not consistent with the POC.
Because we don't know that.
I don't think we can say it's
No,
not
it's not.
consistent with the POCD. I mean, our problem lies in the fact that that he can do whatever he wants with it once we make it B3, right?
No, he can do
whatever the
within
B3 allows.
regulations.
Within what these within B3, he can do what,
Well, you
essentially,
have to make another
whatever he
change.
wants and get zoning approval from it. I don't see that that's part of our responsibility to figure that out in advance. Because zoning's gonna do what zoning does.
My point is only that our responsibility is it consistent with the POCD, and I can't answer that question.
As it sits, it is. Unfortunately, as it sits, it is, because since
He's
it's
asking
a-
to change the scene. Maybe that's unreasonable. Maybe,
Well, even if we found out what he wanted to do with it, 2 years from now, like you said, he could sell it, somebody
Well,
could.
It
that's
might be
true.
something totally different.
So,
That's
so
true.
really, I'm almost thinking, it almost doesn't matter what he's thinking,
Doesn't.
because it really doesn't.
You need to think about, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't in a sense, because he's probably not gonna own it forever, and somebody else could come in and do something different. It's really where our discomfort, do we approve it with the discomfort, or do we deny it due to our
No,
discomfort? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I think Rich has a point in the sense that at face value, the only thing we would have to go on is economic development. And if you look at economic development in POCD, we encourage it.
Sure.
And I think, Michael, you mentioned, I mean, yes, technically they could do anything within the B3, but didn't you mention that also there would be other factors about
So,
parking and things like that? So putting it like, I know this is, but he's not gonna be able to put a motel,
Well,
even though,
In
It's
our,
only parking and things. He can put in anything that B3 allows.
right,
in
This
Article
is right.
Article 10, subsection A3, that's that criteria that I was discussing. I'll just read you that. Prerequisite for commission approval or disapproval in the following, in considering the proposed project or use, the commission shall be guided by the following. 1, the need for the proposed use in the proposed location. 2, the existing and future character of the neighborhood in which the use was located. 3, the location of main and accessory buildings in relation to one another. 4, the height, bulk of buildings in relation to other structures in the vicinity. 5, traffic circulation within the site, location, amount, access to parking, traffic load, or possible circulation problems on existing streets. Next, availability of water to site and adequate disposal of sewage and stormwater. Location and type of display signs, lighting, loading zones, and landscaping. And lastly is safeguards to protect adjacent property and neighborhood in general, from general deterrent. So those are the criteria that the zoning commission would look at on a change of use.
But you still could get a small tavern if that parking was adequate.
Right now, under the I-1 zone, you actually could get a restaurant there. It's allowed by special permit. So that wouldn't
Right.
deviate too much from the current zoning regulations. The issue is the auxiliary, like specific commercial uses such as, it's called out, we either want to be, like for example, a bakery. Because we have permissive zoning regulations, when you call out a very specific term, you can't just put it blindly under, that's a business. It's bakeries are allowed only where it specifically says bakeries in the zoning regulations. Motel, hotel, I know we won't really keen on that, but that's another example. It's a specific term, so therefore it's only allowed where it pops up. Just like medical marijuana dispensaries. If someone wanted to put it there because it's zoned business now, or if the regulation was changed to B3, they could locate one.
Dispensary.
Chances are, quarter of a mile from a elementary school, that's not gonna happen, right?
Across the street. But the thing is, just not to get too far in the weeds off subject, but that would be a criteria that the state reviews, consumer protection. The way it has been explained to me from Commissioner Seagull is that it's not a hard separation distance that they have to conform to, but it's a criteria for judging the merits of an application. So in that case, that could be an application which consumer protection would say, not really the most appropriate location, regardless of the town signed off.
And a tavern.
Change it to a B zone, yes, it could be a tavern.
Also,
That
whatever the distance is to an elementary
application
school.
circulation.
We have
But
no
restaurants-
distance requirements for liquor licenses.
Yeah.
So from places, from schools, etc.
Pretty good ride.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the problem. So you can play with this, it could be this, it could be that. That's what I'm feeling comfortable.
Right, this is not an application for a subdivision, okay, where, we would be looking for very specific requirements to be met. This is a referral from the zoning commission to ask the planning commission for our determination of compliance or non-compliance with the POCD. And I think we owe it to the zoning commission to return an answer tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, their public hearing starts next
Yeah.
week.
I agree.
So although I'd love to hear what the owner may have to say, we've already deferred this once. So,
Well, there's nothing under the regs that means you can't reapply. I mean, try again.
Well,
I mean, you could resubmit an application for a zone change next year, 6 months.
You could,
Yeah.
but he's trying to make this property work, in an environment where the current uses available are, the market is apparently saturated with those types of opportunities. So to differentiate from that, to allow for him to have the beneficial use of the property, to potentially drive more, economic development in the town. And I see that as from what we've been told, what his motivation is. And given all the safeguards and so on, given, what the zoning commission would need to say about certain of these uses,
Yeah, they're only talking about access to water and parking and stuff, not about the use. The use is guaranteed. If he gets B3, he can do that use if he can fit it on his.
Right, but that's, I think, what he's saying. If there are some safeguards that might prevent him from doing some of the uses that we're talking about.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that,
I don't
it's a
know if
potential.
it's too small a lot to hold.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, again, the flow and, yeah, I mean, that's,
well, look at the lot, look at the tennis center lot. I mean, is that the B3 one?
that's an I1.
Oh, I want, I'm
To the
sorry.
north.
Okay, so the adjacent B3 is those
This,
two,
this one right here,
yeah, is it just that one?
and this one right here, two.
Those are medical buildings, I think, right?
This is a veterinary
Oh, right.
office. And this is medical, I believe.
Yeah, the kids,
Where's the tennis?
just north of that.
Oh, north,
That-
oh, there.
with the
Okay,
big-
So those are
yeah.
B3.
So, and that's I2, but they also have this building
Yeah.
here, which is completely vacant, actually. That's
What,
3,000
for sale?
for sale, for lease, you looking?
No, didn't we separate that from the rest of the property though?
No,
Is that, so
that's carried as one parcel.
I thought we did something with that a while back.
You inclined to make a motion, Alan? If not, I will.
Go ahead.
So, I move that the planning commission return a positive referral to application number 18-37, citing, what's the term?
Compliance?
Not
With
compliance.
the goals
not-
and objectives, consistent? with the goals
Yeah,
and
it's
objectives?
it's consistent with the goals and objectives of the 2017 Plan of Conservation and Development, specifically related to economic development.
I'll second that motion.
You got the second, Mr. Glidden? Okay. Any discussion, commissioners? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so Mr. Needham voted nay, and the rest of the commissioners voted yay. Motion passes. Thank you. Very good. Okay, going on to new business. I see here that we're not in receipt of any new applications.
Nothing right.
Okay,
Potentially something coming.
okay,
We can talk later.
okay, good. Under general commission business, we've been provided with a proposed 2019 calendar of meetings. I looked through them. I didn't see any conflicts with any holidays or any erroneous dates. You didn't see anything that was out of place? Okay, so I'll move to accept the proposed regular meeting meeting dates for the year 2019 for the Simsbury Planning Commission as submitted. Second? Aaron seconded. Any discussion?
It's good.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, next, subdivision regulations. So we've been kicking this one around a little bit. At our last meeting, I had asked that the town staff, have a look at it. And I think you responded that the town engineer had not had the opportunity to review the proposed changes. Any change in that status?
He did a quick look at it, and he felt that the changes were appropriate. He'd prefer that we would delay doing a whole-scale update. They were planning on updating the public improvements or highway standard regulations next year. He'd like to put those two projects together so it's a seamless update of both. However, he felt that the suggested changes that were proposed to the commission were appropriate if we wanted to move forward.
Okay, so the
Preference would be is delay and do all the updates at once so that they all match together and there was no conflict. However, if the commission wanted to proceed with this, he would support an application for changing it.
The primary reason for the change to the subdivision regulations was to come into compliance with some revised state statutes. So I know that you've said we may have a little bit of breathing room there, but certainly not a year's worth of time.
Yep.
I'm thinking back to the changes that were proposed for the submittal requirements, a lot of the specifics on how data was presented and things like that.
That was one area that he was okay with.
Okay.
So I mean, we could set that along with the flood regs.
Right.
That's where I was saying that he was comfortable with it.
Okay.
Specifics to anything referring to the roadway design, he would prefer that wait.
I
There's
don't
some
remember that being.
cross references in one of the sections that he preferred that section be pulled off on doing any work to.
Do you remember which section that is?
Not offhand.
You said it had something to do with road signs?
Road, highway standards, because they
Okay.
have that, it was in the capital improvements as CIP as a project that has not proceeded yet, and due to the engineering department's workload, it's not one that's going to start this calendar year.
So is the concern that there may be cross-references noted in the proposed changes? Like, section blah, blah, blah of the highway standards?
Correct. And so that if we go through the process of updating the regs, and they change theirs,
Do these anyway.
we're gonna have to redo them again. But, like I said, he was supportive in some of the nature of the changes.
Yeah, my feeling is that the content of the changes is sound, okay? Any reference to another town document that may become, unaligned, I think we can handle when it happens.
Okay.
So, Commissioners, my preference is to go ahead and propose the changes. I think we have to have a public hearing.
That's correct.
So, and the changes would include the flood, what was it?
Flood standards, flood regs.
Right, you've already crafted the wording for that. We have a document that goes and updates and improves the submission requirements, which I'm very comfortable with, especially after hearing that the town engineer didn't have much heartburn. With the understanding that we may need to revisit it at some time in the future to kind of polish up any references to other documents. So, and I'd also like to leave out the part, there was another consideration about some of the fee in lieu of wording.
That was clear from the commission. We're not
Okay.
changing those. Staff will not be submitting anything for that section.
Okay. And
I got that
would've
message
been-
loud and
That would have
clear.
been my direction. Okay. So I'll make a motion to go ahead and get the wheels in motion. So to come up with the draft.
So the next step, then, staff would prepare an application for submission, which I can work with the chair to prepare for Bill's signature. We'll submit it. It'll go through the public hearing process. We have to advertise it and do some referrals. And then you'll have a public hearing. We'll people will have the ability to testify at the public hearing and then set in effect, close the hearing, and provided there's not substantive change to the document, possibly that night, set an effective date for the change.
Yeah.
So let's say with referrals, your next meeting is in 2 weeks. We could not make that meeting for a public hearing. We're probably looking at October, the first meeting in October as the earliest. We can have a public hearing for this. So that would be, I apologize.
October 9th.
That's correct.
Is that going to give you enough time?
You know what, just to give breathing room to make sure we don't have any snafus on advertisement, I'd prefer to shoot for the 23rd, if the commission's okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
It wouldn't,
So do we need a motion, Mike, or?
I I would ask the commission to take a motion to authorize staff to work with the chair on filing formal application for amendments as presented to the subdivision regulations. Specific to, I think, was it section 7?
Yeah.
Section 8, and section 9, correct? We have all three of those in there?
7, 8, 9. Yeah. 7, 8, and 9.
That way, and it's loud and clear that the other sections will not be updated with this application.
Did you correct the previous issue with the numbering and lettering
Yeah, there was a problem.
before that gets submitted anywhere?
I could, yeah, I will make sure that I'll have admin staff take a look at it to make sure numbering, lettering matches so that when we file it at the clerk's office, we do that 10 days prior to the hearing and do our referrals, that we're not sending a document out that has errors such as that.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to capture that. I make a motion that the commission authorize town staff and the chairman of the commission to complete the application for public hearing to revise the subdivision regulations as far as flood.
Section 7.
Yeah.
Section 7, 8, and 9.
And the other ones, and the flood related,
Flood is in there,
well, flood's in here,
I believe
that was
so.
separate before.
It was separate before because we received that document first, and
Yeah.
then staff started working on updating it.
Okay, if
I
that's
believe
the
it's
case,
in
that's
section
fine.
7.
If not, we need to include it.
You know what, on the safe side, flood regulations, section
And
7,
section
8,
7, 8,
9.
9.
Second?
Craig, second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And we're going to target October 23rd for the public hearing.
You better be square.
That's it for the regular agenda. And Commissioners, anything to say? Mr. Glidden, any?
Mr. Chairman, so our next meeting on 9/25, unfortunately, we don't have a room. So beyond meeting to discuss the application that the two of us have completed it, no business in 2 weeks. So I'd ask the commission maybe to entertain canceling the meeting, just because.
I cannot be present for that meeting.
So you would agree then?
I would agree.
I think Bill should show up anyway.
What's-
Yeah, Mike, I can meet with you.
Yeah, I can't, I'm not
Yeah.
present for that meeting either, so, other than that.
Okay. We just came off a summer break here, folks.
Business.
Our problem is, if we want to meet, we're going to create it on a meeting location, so.
Okay, since there's no pending business and citing difficulties with a room and the participation of some of the commissioners, I'll authorize canceling the September 25th regularly scheduled planning commission meeting.
If for some reason something comes in, we have potentially something, I will contact the chairman and work on coordinating a location should we have to meet.
Okay. And Mike, do you want to plan you and I to meet before then, or even?
Yeah, I'll email you as a,
Okay.
because all I need is really your signature on the application.
Okay.
So
I'll read it first.
I think
That's
we
it.
met at the library before for some special meetings
Yeah, we've met.
when we had public hearings.
Yeah,
It's an alternative.
Somebody's in there.
someone's in there,
Yeah.
someone's in Eno that
Might
night,
end up at Boy Scout.
someone's in here. Yeah, if you really want to meet, we could possibly be in Boy Scout Hall.
I can tell
My
you,
garage.
from the library's point of view, you have to put in your request for a room, particularly not a larger room at night, at least 1 to 2 months in advance. maintenance.
Mhm.
That's why we're building out the basement of the library,
Mhm.
because that main program room is booked up almost every night for
I suppose
For a
my
month.
wife is exactly the
I was
question.
saying, Redstone might be,
Just one other thing, Mr. Glenn, I'll ask you. Thursday night, there was a possibility of economic development meeting led by the state. Was there sufficient interest
Yes,
to warrant that? Okay.
that is on.
That is
For
on.
Thursday at 6 PM at the library.
Thursday, 6 PM at the library. Oops, I'm
Just
not
also a debate then.
Yes.
Mhm.
It was their only availability for CERC to come to town.
And that is for what?
Fundamentals of Economic Development, a Transformational Approach. And it's facilitated by Connecticut Economic Resource Center, CERC. Not to be confused with CREC.
Right.
Or CEDC.
And the Connecticut Economic Development Association, CDUS,
What time?
6
6
PM,
Where?
Program Room 1, Simsbury Public Library. Yeah, there was, when the original invitation came out, it said we needed 20 people
Yeah,
or more.
we have that.
Okay, great. Okay. That's all I had. Anybody else?
Move to adjourn?
Do I have a second? Okay. Mr. Cortez moved to adjourn, Mr. Blumey seconded. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
All right.